the guys talk about the 8 armed drug dealers, replacing sacks with hugs, and LJ goes against every instinct he has to try to sell Kevin on the Raiders. Fitzmagic, parlay killers, Tiger's big win, and more this week on Just Press Play.
The red wasp was excavate pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay. All right. Look, I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week. I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
All right, welcome back to another episode of the JPP. We got LJ back. LJ's back.
What up?
Pops is joining us as always. What's going on, guys?
What up? Hey, not much.
You know,
what's up with you?
Hanging out.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a wild Sunday. Tiger wins a tour championship for his first victory in over 1,800 days, or since 2013.
And still didn't get the final presentation at that. Did you see that?
What do you mean?
Justin, is it Justin Leonard?
Justin Rose. I was watching football. I'll cop up. I was watching football.
Well, he won like the FedEx Cup, and I don't know exactly. I need to look, but I'm assuming that's kind of like when in the Winston Cup was in NASCAR. Where he's scored the best over the whole PGA year. So anyway, he won the final prize, which was the FedEx Cup, which was actually bigger than that tournament. But God, what a win for Tiger. And I don't know if y'all saw him walking up the 18 green.
Oh my gosh. I was about to mention it was insane.
We'll have to put that on the website. It was insane. I mean, he said I was trying not to get trampled, but I mean, it was, you should have seen everybody following him walking.
It looked like and at one point he was walking through, it looked like Tiger was going to have to part the Red Sea. There were so many people. And they pulled like an aerial view. I guess like a drone was up top. It was so cool. And it just shows you there's only a few athletes in my lifetime that can pull off just the amount of care by everybody in the whole world that Tiger can pull off. And it's wild. I would be willing to bet. I don't know what the ratings would be. Like the first round of games were really good and there was a lot of good matchups. But if you look at the second round of the NFL games and then who all turned over to Tiger Woods, I bet Tiger Woods and the PGA Tour was way up there. Because, I mean, Twitter, that's all Twitter was talking about. It was insane. So good for Tiger.
Man, that's got to be why it's tough to win after a hiatus, too, because the amount of pressure that's on him to finish up, like, that'd be tough.
Well, and I think you might have to correct me, but I want to say when they were giving him they gave him like a putter or a pitching wedge or something was the trophy, but they said for your 82nd, I think, PGA win, and he hadn't won in a long time. So just think about that. How many?
Yeah, I think this was 80 or 82nd. It was right at around 80. And so that's how many he has, and he hasn't won in 5 years. I mean, that's insane.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
He's insanely talented.
So, and then in the NFL, the Dolphins are 3-0. Patrick Mahomes is rewriting the record books. The Browns won a game. The Bills, I don't know. The Vikings Bills just forgot they had a game. John Gruden hasn't won a game in over a decade still. I mean, it is just insane. And this is only week 3. It's been a wild. Just real quick, I want to get into like just kind of some rapid thoughts on the NFL. And I will say one of my favorite things to do when I watch Red Zone Channel, and as many people out there do. And one of the best things is like, I love the little game I play inside my head when they pull up and Siciliano comes up and there's some background music. And in the 2 seconds of knowing where the field position is, his tone of voice, and the background music behind it, trying to decide, is this going to be a pick, a touchdown, a close touchdown? Fun. Like, what's coming up? What's happening here? And like one of them was Patrick Mahomes throwing it deep, and I was like, ooh, another deep touchdown. And then it was he barely overthrew him. So it's just it's a little game I like to play. But
that's awesome.
Real quick, Dad, what'd you take away? What was something that you noticed on the games today?
I think one of the biggest surprises to me was Minnesota. I mean, I think I picked Minnesota last week as they were who I thought they were. A good, solid team, going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, same.
And then,
I think we've all collectively written off the Bills. It's like maybe they won't win a single game.
And then almost got shut out.
Okay, I didn't say anything about the Bills, but
they almost got shut out by the Bills. I mean, it was 30 or 27-0 until late in the game.
I know, Dad, me and you both have Kirk Cousins starting this week, so
yeah.
So you think Vontae Davis like calling him back now? Like maybe I retired 1/2 too early. Like maybe I should have stuck around.
No kidding.
Maybe so.
I'm telling you that. Rest in peace to a ton of survivor pools. I mean, I bet that was like the hot survivor.
Thank you for lobbing that up for me, Kevin. Do you know who won the survivor pool in our league?
Did you?
You're looking at him, guys. I had.
There we go.
So today, the first week, many of them took New Orleans over Tampa Bay. So they're out. So this week,
because they didn't realize that Fitzmagic.
They didn't realize Fitzmagic, wears Deshaun Jackson's clothes, and it's so cool. And then, so this week, everybody took Minnesota over Buffalo. Reasonable, except the kid here. The kid here took Kansas City over San Francisco, and
the kid
took. And so, yeah.
Well, so I was thinking about that game, and that was funny. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was, betting on the Bills to cover or taking the Bills at all. That was just one of those games I was staying away from. One, because the point spread was 16.5. It was in Minnesota. As you mentioned, Dad, at least me and you, or at least I, have been writing off the Bills and said they're just trash, awful, worst thing I've seen this year. But it's just that point spread was high, and I kind of thought maybe with this whole Vontae Davis retiring and at halftime, there's this whole like Bills, us against the world. And the Vikings have to be thinking, they're still kind of let down that they've tied against the Packers. Yeah. And we'll just come in and get a win real quick. They have a big game coming up on Thursday against the Rams. So I could see them overlooking it, but they didn't overlook it. They just didn't show up. Right. Like Dad said, they barely got a touchdown at the end of the game.
Well, and
that was rough.
That was wild.
The reason I didn't pick them, Kevin, is because I thought I want to use Minnesota later. I kind of thought there were just some other. You know how you do in a survivor league? You get to use a team one time. So it wasn't like I saw this letdown.
Well, that would be you would think that would be the game to choose. I understand why people went Vikings over Bills, but another hugely disappointing game. The Jags, it goes again to what we said before about the Jags Patriots last weekend. I think clearly that was their Super Bowl, and they lost to the Titans today 9-6.
Wow.
When Gabbert started and got hurt, and they brought in Mariota, came back, and apparently he can't feel in 3 of his fingers on his throwing hand. I mean, it was a very, very bad game compared to what you saw from the Jags last week. And I think clearly they put it all on the line last week and just kind of walked through the motions. But it's just letdown games. That killed some parlays. Those 2 games right there killed some teasers and parlays. That was bad betting games.
Yeah. But what is it? Did I hear Jimmy G? Is Jimmy G out?
So that game in general, that game was fun to watch. It never kind of got close enough to where you wanted to, but just the schemes of watching guys run wide open. Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan are just masterminds. It was crazy seeing these little tight end throwbacks. But yeah, late in the game, Jimmy G, and it wasn't one of these roughing the passer plays. Jimmy G was running out to the left and just.
Well, I mean, it probably was if a different ref was there. You never know. Those are always.
Well, that's the problem. So we'll get into it in a minute, but you can't tackle the quarterback, and really you can't not tackle him either because Jimmy G got hurt because no one tackled him. So I don't know what we're gonna do with him, but. He took like a false step and his knee just kind of buckled a little bit. And as of this is Sunday evening, Kyle Shanahan says the team fears that it's a torn ACL. We'll see on the MRI Monday. So,
man, is there something wrong with the San Francisco strength and conditioning coaches or something? Like,
well, Brady came back in the game, but Jimmy G getting hurt. There was so much excitement for the 49ers and Shanahan and Garoppolo, and to lose them for the year, really, it's why we don't want to lose quarterbacks, but it is football. Guys are going to get hurt when they get tackled, and when they run, it just kind of happens. Yeah. But also in that same game, this Pat Mahomes thing, I think it's a real deal. I don't think this is like a flash in the pan. This guy he just broke the record for most touchdowns in his first 3 games of the regular season. The Chiefs I think they broke the record, or they're at least right up there with the record of most touchdowns by a team in the first 3 games.
What did he do today, Kev?
He's thrown to 9 different receivers.
I think 3 touchdowns
today.
Or 3, I think so. I think he's up to 12 now. So that would be.
I think he had 4 today, so he has 13. He has 13
maybe 13. But I mean,
just a crazy good game.
We're still calling it early. This is the Chiefs we're talking about. This is specifically the Chiefs thing, is that they have these, 4 or 5 games. It's same as Fitzmagic. I mean, we'll see, but it's Andy Reid's calling great games in this first part of the series or season, and then we'll see what happens later. But
well, so as far as like, if you want to try to say something, if you're saying let's go on like, are they Super Bowl favorites or are they Super Bowl contenders? I will say that defense can't stop a nosebleed, and that eventually is going to come back to bite them. You can't keep just scoring 40 every game, I don't think. But when you watch this team play, the way that there's so many weapons with Hunt and Hill, and then DeAnthony Thomas comes in, and then Kelsey, and
they make each other better.
Plays.
I think that's the great thing about the Chiefs is they're a swarm of ants, and so you try to triple cover Tyreek Hill, and you've just left 3 weapons open. It's not like like the Broncos have places you can target and take them out of the game. But the Chiefs, there's really no one thing you can take out of the game and feel comfortable from then on. There's
They ran a play today just to what you're saying, and it was just showing that how hard it must be to guard him. They ran one where Tyreek Hill ran across the play through the flats like he might be running like a little bubble screen, and Kareem Hunt did the same thing the other direction, and then Travis Kelce basically just kind of turned around, and the defense went sideline to sideline, and then Kelce just turned around and got like a 20-yard gain on a little tight end middle screen. And those are throws where he doesn't have to do much. He just tosses it 5 yards. And then if you ever blow a coverage, he will, as people know. I mean, he can launch it 70 yards from his knees. So if you miss coverage, then Mahomes did make one throw, that he was rolling out to his right, and he had already like made a guy miss in the pocket, was rolling to his right, and put a ball on a rope for about 20 yards in the back in the corner of the end zone. It was one of those there's only a few guys in the NFL can make the throw. Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying that at all, but what I am saying is that I think that they get overrated. He gets overrated. The Chiefs get overrated because every year I think what they do is this offense puts a lot of miles on your toes. And so by the time, you start getting tired for the season, defenses are just coming together. And
but it's not one guy. He's thrown a touchdown to 9 different players now.
Yeah. I mean, but those 9 players are running 30 yards every single play. I mean, there's nobody that gets a playoff in that offense or else it doesn't work. Like, I think that type of playing is hard to keep up for the rest of the season. We'll see. It's fun to watch. I mean, it's terrible to watch as a Broncos fan, but it is really fun to watch, and I wouldn't mind seeing that team in a playoff game. Like, that looks horrifying. Yeah. But it's just, I have a hard time seeing how that does something different than the Chiefs have done in the past.
Those are all fair statements. Absolutely. I hear you. Yeah.
And there was that fun game. Dad kind of mentioned it a second ago. I don't know if it was while we were recording earlier, but the Saints Falcons game during the first round, that game
back
was
and forth.
I think since I've been watching football, well, maybe not since I've been watching, but just since kind of the Brees went to New Orleans and Matt Ryan's been at the Falcons, that has been, not only is it a good rivalry because they play each other twice a year and those teams seem to not like each other, but they're pretty often, they're both been really good for the past 7 plus years. And those games are just so fun to watch. And Matt Ryan and Drew Brees both were putting on a clinic. I mean, they just couldn't be stopped. And I think what was the final score ended up being like 43-37 or something in overtime.
Something like it. Yeah.
It was, I mean, that was wild. And Dad picked Brees. I think he wants Brees to be his quarterback if he can pick one, just because Brees is going to be a good hang. But that little spin move he made, he was dead in the rights with 2 tacklers coming on. And this isn't Cam Newton. I mean, this is Drew Brees. And he gets this little spin move and scores to force overtime. It was a piece of work. It was beautiful.
That's awesome.
What did you hear what he said after the game?
Well, he said something about
what he
kind of implied. I heard a little bit of it, Kevin. Did he imply he had a flag football team and he told him that he had a spin move and they wouldn't believe him?
Well,
he said now it's okay.
He implied that I think he was implying that he coaches a flag football team, maybe with like his kid. I mean, I'm sure everyone remembers Drew Brees' kid with the headphones in the Super Bowl. That was five or 6 years ago, so he's probably about flag football age. And he said, "Man, I have a flag football team, and I've been trying to tell them to use the spin move, and no one wants to listen to me. So now I'm glad I have a spin move on tape I can show them." I'm sure there's plenty of spin moves, Drew. You don't have to show that one, but it was pretty sweet. I can't lie.
Man, how cool would it be to be coached like an 8-year-old flag football team being coached by Drew Brees? Like that would be.
Well, you wouldn't even. Would you even know how cool it is? You wouldn't even. I don't think you could fathom.
But
how
one day
awesome
you would.
Hell, I'd go play on the team.
One day you would. Yeah. Are they looking for a center? Because I played a little center back in the day.
Oh man, I'm just picturing LJ playing center for like a youth flag football team right now.
Oh my God, he was the only one could do the shotgun. I mean, he was the only one of the. I mean, maybe the only center we could do the shotgun regularly.
Plus, Drew Brees' flag football team's going to need a shotgun center. So
yeah, that's for sure.
That's right.
Sign me up.
So also in that game, Drew Brees broke the record. He broke the most completions ever by a quarterback in the NFL. He is now number one. He passed, I think he passed Peyton Manning. Or no, it was Favre. Favre is 2, Manning's 3, Brady's 4, and Marino was 5. We don't mention him with the GOATs, and it's probably because of the rings that Brady and Montana and some of the others have. But Brees is so,
So he also, I think you're coming around. You're coming around.
Maybe. Okay. And then he
out
seems
there.
like
Well,
a good
that's
hang.
one of the things I think we like discount him a little bit because like he lost his job to Phillip Rivers, and that was such a weird thing.
He lost it due
like,
to injury.
We're going to take this.
Now he lost it due to injury.
Well, he also was not this good there. Like he was not this good in San Diego.
Well, yeah, Drew Brees and it's just like what Belichick and Brady have been. Peyton, I think Sean Payton's a great coach, and I think Brees is a great quarterback. But the combination of the two is a piece of art.
And they've done a really good job at building an offense around him almost every year too, which is just that's a consistency and leadership that you don't see on very many teams. Even the Patriots have a hard time building a team around Brady.
They didn't really build a defense around him until just here recently.
No, it's all offense for sure, but.
But now my recollection on that's a little different. I think Brees hurt his rotator cuff or something, had surgery.
He did, yeah.
Somehow the Chargers got Phillip Rivers, who was
they drafted
a real quarterback.
Yeah. Well, traded him with the Giants,
and I think Drew Brees was a little bit later draft pick. I don't think maybe his second rounder, maybe he was late first round. I don't remember. But
out of Texas, he went to school in Texas.
Yeah, but he went to Purdue. He was in college, but he was a Texas guy. And then he came back with that shoulder issue. I think they were so scared of him.
I think you were right.
And Rivers was looking good. They put him up for trade. So I don't know that Rivers. I guess technically he did beat him out, but there's a little more to the story.
He took his job.
It's like Paul Harvey said. There's a little more to the story on that. So,
but I remember thinking back when that was all going down that I thought that Phillip Rivers, I think he earned the job. But I hope that Drew Brees gets somewhere because I think he's got some potential. Like it wasn't, he was not this good though. Like he was
he's even better.
Good. Unintended consequences. Well, so Drew Brees is fascinating. One, because you just look at Phillip Rivers and Brees and the way that's really worked out really well. I know Phillip Rivers has won.
I think that worked
Super Bowl,
for both teams. Yeah.
Yeah. They're both ended up with Hall of Fame careers probably when it's all said and done.
I think so.
Well, and Phillip Rivers is the best quarterback for the city of San Diego that there might be in the NFL. Like
I don't want to get too far side note. There was a picture today on Twitter that was circulating around, and it was Phillip Rivers, and it was like, this guy is one of the best quarterbacks and has been for the past 10 years, and this is how he throws the football. And it was him like looking like a lame duck. I mean, it was the funniest thing in the world.
Did you see? So he was on Dan Patrick. Is that?
They asked him about his kids. Right? Are you talking about that?
They said, how many kids have you got? And he's like 9, I think. And he's like, are you done? And he was like, oh heck no, because he won't curse.
And he answered so fast too. Oh heck no, Dan.
Yeah. And then also apparently his oldest son just like genetically ended up with his throwing motion. He tried to teach his son a better throwing motion, but his son ended up with his throwing motion.
Yeah. It's not a thing of beauty.
I know his struggle. I throw like dad.
Whoa.
Anyway,
back that train up.
With the fire.
So on the unintended consequences though, just real quick. So Brees, when they decided they drafted Rivers and they weren't going to buy into Brees and his shoulder. So Brees was looking for a new job. He was this close to going to Miami. And the only and he was going to go with Mr. Saban when Nick Saban was there. So if Nick Saban would have got Drew Brees instead of who he ended up getting and paid just the same amount of money was Dante Culpepper. So that didn't work out. The best thing Dante Culpepper did at the Dolphins was make a cool Madden commercial with him celebrating. But if Brees would have went to the Dolphins with Nick Saban may still be at the Dolphins. Who knows what Alabama's doing? I mean, it changed everything. And instead, Nick Saban ended up flaming out at Miami, went back to be the best college football coach maybe ever.
Yeah.
And Brees went to Sean Payton, match made in heaven, as we talked about a second ago. It's just as wild how that easily, I mean, he was like a second away. He was really weighing between the two, and he chose to go to New Orleans.
Was that around the time that Sean Payton was trying to pull Tony Romo to New Orleans too? So then that could have changed that franchise.
He tried to pull Romo, and then when he got Brees, I'm telling you, that will be one day. Someone needs to
the history of Drew Brees is the history of the NFL.
Someone with some serious connections and plugs needs to like rewrite that and just talk about how close everything was the changing. Because
there's
a lot of dominoes.
Interesting side note: wasn't Sean Payton a quarterback at I think Eastern Illinois or wherever Romo was?
Where Romo and Jimmy Garoppolo and Mike Shanahan,
Jimmy G was there too. Okay,
yeah.
Okay,
there's actually it's wild. There's been some people go through.
It's quarterback you, wow. It really is.
So in an interesting turn of events now, it's become who would have guessed it before the year, but it's now between Pat Mahomes and Ryan Fitzpatrick in a dead heat for the NFL. I don't know if it's the NFL MVP or the NFL fantasy MVP, but these two are both just slinging the rock around. And it was interesting. I saw an argument arose on Twitter the other day, and it was about a stat got thrown out by someone that said Ryan Fitzpatrick has, as of today, by the time people listen to this, he may have thrown 5 more on Monday night, but as of today, Fitzpatrick has 16 more passing touchdowns in his career than Hall of Famer Troy Aikman and 44 less starts.
Wow.
So just statistically, you're like, wow, that is impressive. And Troy Aikman actually saw it and quoted it and said, who cares? And and I don't know if Aikman was really like being salty or if he was just saying, why is this even relevant? Why are you bringing me up? Like, why are we comparing? Mm-hmm. But so the argument got started because Damian Woody, who works with ESPN, said, in what universe do these two quarterbacks even get mentioned in the same sentence? And other ESPN NFL writers answered back, and they were like, in the same universe where fantasy football has made people fantastically dumber about actual football than ever before. And then people started ragging on about how fantasy football has actually created the dumbest generation of fans. And I would beg, that's an interesting topic to me, and I wanted to kind of lob it out to y'all because I think more people know more about the sport and statistically, but are we dumber or not dumber? I don't know if that's the right word, but do we look at stats more, just touchdowns? Ryan Fitzpatrick's thrown more touchdowns. What do y'all think? Has fantasy football made fans, the average fan, smarter or not about football? I'll throw it to you first, El.
Well, I think that it makes the smart fans dumber and the dumb fans smarter. Like if you look at somebody that doesn't know anything about football and they start joining a fantasy football league, that's a really good way to learn like the importance of a wide receiver and what kind of role they have on the team. You know, what a defense's goal is and like, you know, how random kickers are and, you know, all these things that we NFL fans have always known. Whereas the really smart fans, I think you get watered down. Like one of the things that I've lost is I used to be like a really good like insight into Denver Broncos information. And now I just have like half the information, but about every team in the league. Like you lose a ton to try to pick up a little bit more general knowledge. And I think that's one of the things that's happened in fantasy football is you lose like the, you know, knowing who the second string guard is if your starting guard gets hurt or whatever. So you can know who the third string wide receiver is in Miami or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it does really bring down the level of intelligence in the average to super fan, but it brings up everybody to that is not super interested to a level that makes a big difference. So,
Dad, what say you?
Well, that's interesting. I probably was going a little different way on it.
All right, go.
Well, I think that yes, in some senses, it's made people smarter, but I do think it's in the vein that LJ's referring to. You know who the second and third wide receivers are. I mean, I can talk to people. I mean, Tammy will know. She's not a super football fan, certainly not NFL, but she knows certain receivers and quarterbacks. But then I think it's made. I guess my point was I think that and another thing I'll put in with it is Madden. I think it's made people more into what cover 2 is and what kind of defenses guys are
Madden
running.
made me a much smarter
exactly
football fan.
And I think I love sitting around with my buddies and talking about a West Coast versus a cover 2 man versus a cover 2 not man would be a zone, or whatever. Yeah. And Tammy asking me what was a nickel, what was the nickel package on defense the other day. So in that regard, I do think it's begun to make people a little smarter. The encircle.
Does Tammy play fantasy?
She does not. She will do FanDuel every now and then. She'll do a team on FanDuel every now and then.
So she'll do some daily fantasy.
But actually she hadn't done one yet this year. So it's not anything she does very often. But she'll keep up. And she's much more of a college football fan. And there's not much for us to cheer about in that vein either. I think Auburn covered.
You guys aren't big UNT fans?
Did UNT win? I guess I'm going to keep up with them. Did they win?
You know who didn't win? You know who? We're getting way off.
Well, I know a few teams that didn't win.
But Colorado State lost to a Division II school, and they beat Arkansas.
Ouch.
But we're not going to talk about how bad Arkansas is. So, Dad, where are you going with fantasy football? Where do you stand? Has fantasy football and how much it's evolved over the years, has it made fans smarter fans or no?
Well, I think yes. I think it has. If you go overall, I think LJ's point is pretty well taken. It's with the average fan and what it's done for them, and then the fans that are us. Fantasy football made us dig more into it because you want to see how this receiver is going to react against this defense.
Right, because I don't want to act like, by the way, none of us are acting like we're some savants when it comes to football.
Not at all.
I think what we're trying to say is we're all fans of the game, and then fantasy football is just another way for us to nerd out and geek out a little more.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think overall, yes, has it raised the awareness? And if you're raising the awareness of a subject, are you raising people's knowledge of the subject? Yes. So I think overall, I'd have to say, yes, it has raised people's knowledge of football. That would be my take.
I think that you're right to a degree, but one thing that I have noticed is I feel like more people know more of the pretty positions than otherwise used to. Like used to, it's not like, a guard or a defensive tackle was like the highest sold jersey by a team by any stretch. It's not like we're like, quarterbacks were nothing back in the day, but now there's so much emphasis on knowing who Antonio Brown is and who Patrick Mahomes is that like it really doesn't matter who the rest of the non-face parts of the team have. The defensive tackle, like Calais Campbell is not a name in every household for sure.
No, you're right. It's not even. It's close the skill positions: running back, wide receiver.
I think it's dumbed down the people that used to be into that kind of thing. Like it's kind of turned us into more of a celebrity sort of culture in football.
Interestingly, though, to counter that a little bit, the level of next gen stats, if you will, of like what people look at now, where now the average fan knows how many times Julio Jones is targeted. They know how many times he's targeted in the red zone. They know how many times he converts those red zone targets.
Well, the average fan doesn't know that. They're not looking at that.
But the average fan that now plays fantasy football has dug further into it and they start reading stuff. So I will say it kind of has made people smarter, but what I was really thinking about this the other day, and due to fantasy football, I think more people are aware of things like, Darrelle Revis and Richard Sherman were probably a few years ago were really good corners. And
Sherman's still a stud, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
Well, so if you go, but people realize if my receivers, like at one point when Revis was on Revis Island doing his thing, you realized, if my guy is going up against Revis, probably shouldn't start him because that guy's really good. So I think fantasy football has made people more aware of, this guy's a really good football player. Even if he doesn't get a ton of interceptions and a ton of picks, he's a good football player because no one will throw at him. And before, you wouldn't notice it unless Deion Sanders getting a pick six maybe. But the problem, that doesn't necessarily mean people are smarter about football. That just means they realize, my guy won't produce touchdowns because they don't understand why Revis or Sherman, not everybody. Fantasy football doesn't tell you why they're good at corner. It's because, he's really good at flipping his hip or his agility or he can read the play. Like they just realize, Sammy Watkins is going up against Revis. I shouldn't start Sammy Watkins this week. So I think it makes you smarter to an extent, but there's still a level of football, which I think what's helped me grasp the game better than anything is like that. I didn't think about it, but it's probably Madden, learning coverages from Madden. But still, I'll be talking to Lane sometimes who coaches now, and he'll start really talking about what like probably him and his fellow coaches talk about when they watch the game. And there's just a different level of watching things where they're looking at how people use their hands in the trenches. And that's why I really like watching. There's still something too when you watch NFL Countdown or different shows where you like former players or coaches, and when they break down film, there's things they see or look for that just the average fan, we don't look for. We look for the sexy stuff like LJ saying, touchdown catches.
Well, and that's, I guess what you were saying kind of leads me to something I was going to say a second ago, but then kind of got sidetracked, is I think maybe one of the reasons that like Tammy is becoming really knowledgeable about football and asking really great questions that like a just real simple fan would never ask has more to do with the fact that she's watching it with people that she likes that are smart and, having that situation more than whether or not fantasy football exists, I mean, I think that's maybe the best learning factor, is being around people that are interested, excited, and smart at the same time. So,
but it's clear. So it's clear that regardless of this, I think this is an interesting topic regardless, and we can maybe have it more later. But fantasy football has been good for the sport. It has created, like we just mentioned, with Tammy and with other friends of mine and tons of people, just fantasy football brings in more fans. And so the game understands that. And what makes fantasy better? Scoring. So what are they doing? Protecting. We've got on this so much, protecting the quarterback. And man, it's going to be the talk all week this week. Man, I don't know what. So clearly, I think Clay Matthews has some dirt on Roger Goodell, and he held it over Roger Goodell. And Roger Goodell's like, "Look here, buddy, you can't tackle a single player until you give me that black whatever he's blackmailing him with." Because Clay Matthews, again, last week he tackled he hit Russell Westbrook. Where am I going? He hit Kirk Cousins,
then took down KD after that.
He hit Kirk Cousins, and he kind of drove him into the ground. And I get the rule, and I even have it written down somewhere in here, and I will get into in a second. But
this was something I wanted to respond to last week, by the way.
Yeah, and we've mentioned this multiple times, and there's no more national anthem controversy or catch controversy because the NFL is doing this crazy stuff where you can't touch a quarterback.
Hey, that's what it is. It's a false flag. I think you caught something.
I think that's what the NFL is like. Look, I'd rather him complain about this than complain about the anthem. And we haven't heard the anthem stuff at all.
LJ, I mean, I have a little bit, but I've gone out of my way.
So this week, before I give it over to you, last week with Kirk Cousins, as Kirk Cousins threw it, he kind of tackled him and drove him into the ground a little bit. And they created the rule kind of off the sense of the Aaron Rodgers injury 2 years ago last year, where they drove him into the ground and broke his collarbone. But this week, he sacked Alex Smith. When the game was it was not as close, but it was still the game was close. And that's an automatic first down. He sacks Alex Smith. And I don't know. I mean, you're sacking a guy. You might land on him. It just kind of, I don't know if you know what tackling is, but it's kind of part of tackling. And they called him for another 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. And I don't know what to do. What do you think? We haven't heard your thoughts on this. We've talked to her blue in the face. What do you think, El?
Well, I want to say first, I think it's a former Cowboy, but some announcer, it's probably a former Cowboy.
Some
announcer, good chance. Some announcer has taken sack out of their vocabulary and now calling it hugs them to the ground because you're not allowed to sack anymore.
I knew those. But
what I wanted to say about it, what I wanted to say about it mostly is that you guys said last week, well, it's not that one play that lost them the game. And I think, well, of course not. It's not one play, but I think this rule change is like really changing the way that you have to think while you're on defense. And to some degree, football is like every other sport where the more you're thinking about a game, the less you're actually like doing. Like, golfing is not about getting lost in your head. And so I think one thing you can look at to see how big of a deal this is last week against Kirk Cousins, one of the Green Bay, I think, defensive linemen had him wrapped up, and then Kirk Cousins throws a little pump fake, and so the dude just lets him go. And then Kirk Cousins finishes the rollout and goes for a gain of a yard. And so these defensive linemen and defensive ends are afraid to tackle quarterbacks because it's a first down if you do. Even, it turns what was a great play into a mistake, and it's not even feeling consistent with what the rule call is. And so I guess one of the things you guys said is like it makes sense to protect the quarterback. We all want a safer game. That is something we're all going for. But I wish we protected all the players like we protect the quarterback. Like, if we're going to do this, let's go flag football. Like, let's just do it all the way. I don't want that.
Well,
but like,
the game
it just
really
feels
is,
like we're not.
These rules are given a lot more credibility. Like, I always kind of, the guy that goes, let's just make it flag football. I just kind of go, okay, you're over exaggerating. But the way they're calling these, like, it wasn't even the guy you mentioned, and I'm saying this like actually genuinely okay with making it flag football. It'd be a lot less fun for me to watch, but like at least we're being consistent. My problem is that we're just treating the quarterback as if like, well, if the quarterback gets hurt, nobody's going to tune in. But I want to see a good defense play. I want to see, I don't want to see like
anybody
those Ravens
get hurt.
Defense back
Protect
in the day.
Them all.
Those it was fun to watch a good defense. But
now a good defense can't exist because the cornerbacks can't cover a wide receiver without getting a flag thrown on him, and a defensive end can't rush a passer without getting a flag thrown on him. So you can really only play defense on run plays, which is kind of a problem because they don't run very much anymore. So
Well, I think here's the big difference, though, today. Let me say this. The big difference today, the big difference this week on Clay Matthews' penalty is that he actually sacked the guy with the football still in his hand. If you can't tackle a guy with the football in your...
As they were going to the ground, once they kind of went and he realized, I got my sack done, I wrapped him up, he tried to do that.
I've seen it one time. I want to watch it again, but and y'all heard me last week. I was like, and to what you said, LJ, yes, it's instinctual, and they have to change the instinct a little bit. I get that, and it's going to be a little bit of a rough time while we're trying to do that. Clay Matthews sacked the quarterback with the football today, and they called a penalty on him. That is, and I'm kind of a proponent of trying to change these rules, and I'm backing off of that. I'm like, come on, that is ridiculous. So, I don't know what we need to do, but that should not have been a penalty. I saw it one time. I'll see it again, I'm sure, but that seemed wrong.
Well, so the NFL doubled down on it once again after that play. That the NFL operations Twitter, it's something that kind of is ran by the refs, and they tweeted out that video and said, once again, rule 12A.1, whatever they do. And they said, if the defender lands with all or most of the defender's weight on the passer, it's a penalty. Which, I mean, that's a tackle. That I don't understand like Clay Matthews actually had a really good 3-minute little spiel at his locker after the game where he just was like, I don't know what, I got my head across. I'm doing everything I've ever been taught. I played football for 20 years and it's everything I've been taught. And it's a penalty. There's 21 on the field. There's 21 guys that get to play football, but the pass rusher, he can't quite do what you've always been able to do. And I think LJ hit it on the head. It's just like what we've talked about. When you think about, like, once you're thinking about something and you're not just playing by instincts, you're either going to screw up or you're going to get hurt because you're thinking. You just got to play with instincts. And now if Clay Matthews is thinking, I got a sack, but he starts thinking before he gets there, I better make sure I hit him the right way. That's when Romo's able to hit him with a spin move, or Mahomes is able to hit him with a little juke.
Or Kirk Cousins throws a pump fake and you give up on the play. Like
it's just like,
these
remember
players
when
they started to play football. They started
really calling the play, which I agree. When a guy goes out of bounds, you don't hit him. Like they started calling that penalty unnecessary roughness. But then you remember, and if the offensive guys start to go, oh, I'm going to act like I'm giving myself up. And defenders would let up because they don't want to get the penalty. And then the offensive guy would turn it up or juke. Yeah. And you saw that cost people. And you're going to see, I think, LJ, you just hit it on the head. You're going to see guys let up because what if Kirk Cousins releases it? Then that's 15-yard penalty. We're in the 2-minute warning.
We're just going to see it in a playoff game is the problem. It's going to decide games because you're thinking too hard. I mean, if the Broncos don't start winning, then I might stop watching all that much because, it's rough out there. And the Broncos might not start winning because they're all a defensive rushing team.
That is not unlike the damn fair catch call in the Arkansas game. I mean, that was totally fair. Yeah. That if a quarterback uses that method to not get hit, and I mean, I guess that's fair, but it ain't right. And they ought to throw the flag on the quarterback if he's doing that. I mean, I don't know how we got to fix this.
I did see an interesting solution on Reddit where it was like, let's have like a 5-yard roughing the passer penalty and a 15-yard endangering the passer penalty or something like that. And that seems interesting to me. I don't know exactly how it works, but that does seem interesting to me. But like the way that they've got it now, if I'm a defensive lineman and I've got a clear lane to the quarterback, I'm probably going to take his head off because it's going to be a penalty almost no matter what I do. So I'm going to earn it, and I'm going to try to make sure that quarterback thinks twice before he
that might be the unintended consequence. We might hurt him worse because you're right, LJ. If I'm going to get the penalty, I'm fixing to lay him out. So, yeah.
Well, there was something about back in the day that was great is when you're a quarterback and once you start getting, because it's part of the game, when you start, because Romo was a victim to it at times, and you see it every now and then, a quarterback who has gotten, they're nervous about getting hit because it is part of the game, and the hits have gotten to them, and they're just tired of it, and they start taking off on throws or throwing it early, or you rush that time up, and by protecting them so much, you're just putting. I know we want points, we want to save the offense, it's what looks cool, but at some point you're getting away from what football is, and I know when we mentioned the most important,
happened 6 years ago.
Yeah, I know we mentioned the most important positions in the game, and someone that came up is pass rusher. And one guy, I don't know if you've heard, but John Gruden with the Raiders just. He was.
This is something else I wanted to talk about.
I know your Broncos lost, so yeah, I know you'd love to talk about how the Raiders just keep losing. So John Gruden was asked, he was asked earlier this week about his pass rushers or lack thereof. And he answered with this quote: "It's hard to find a great one. It's hard to find a good one. Hell, it's hard to find one, period," talking about a pass rusher. You had one and you let him walk out the door. You let him off the hook. I mean, what is this a joke by John Gruden at this point? Or is he just purposely is he ignorant, or is he just joking with us like, yeah, I know I traded him. It's fine to keep asking the questions.
I think here's the deal. All right, let me hear it. I'm going to throw you for a curveball. I think the Raiders are a good team, and I think that John Gruden might be the guy to take them there.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know. I hate it. It makes me very angry.
Buckle up real quick.
But all right, so here's the deal. Khalil Mack wanted a lot of money. Right? Yeah. They're trying to build an entire team. They take Khalil Mack, they have to cut a wide receiver. They take Khalil Mack, they have to cut a safety. But if they get some middling talent, they've already got Bruce Irvin. You said that it was Khalil Mack and a bunch of other guys last year.
Yeah,
that's absolutely not true. And also you guys were saying who knew Khalil Mack was this good? He was on this he's doing all this because now he's on a good defense. Well, let me read this stat to you. Khalil Mack has recorded a sack and a forced fumble in all 3 games this season. The last player to record a sack and a fumble in 3 straight games, Khalil Mack from 2016. He's been doing this for years. He just hadn't been doing it in a major market. Khalil Mack is the real deal, and it's not like that defense was any worse than this defense. We're just looking at a team.
No, this defense is better. He's at a better defense.
No, I'm saying it's not any better. I'm saying that this is the same because the truth of the matter is Gruden knows he's got 10 years. He's trying to build a dynasty. He's not trying to win tomorrow. And the things that when I watched that Bronco game, they didn't lose that game because they couldn't get a pass rush. They couldn't get a pass rush because they were gassed, because they could not keep up in that mile high air. And so they lost because they had a lack of focus and a lack of conditioning. And where does Gruden want to take it to? He wants to take it to back in the 80s and 90s football when it was all about, it wasn't about flash, but it was about conditioning, and it was about focus, and it was about knowing your job.
Yeah, when you that's what they're missing.
Well, they couldn't because they were in bad condition. Go watch the highlights from that game from the second half. Watch how every player there just kind of falls over once the offensive line hits them. That's why the Broncos could just do anything they wanted in the second half of that game, is because nobody could stay awake.
Wait, so are you buying it? We'll get into this. Isn't for today.
We might talk tomorrow.
You be buying into 0-3 John Gruden?
I might. It depends on how long the buy is. I'm not buying them to win the Super Bowl this year.
Low. You could buy low.
Well, I know. No, it depends on how long the buy is. Are we talking a 5-year buy? I might buy that. That's a team that doesn't have to carry about his job tomorrow.
He's selling a 5-year buy, and I'm telling you why. He's got 2 more years in Oakland, right? They didn't want to mortgage the ranch on Khalil Mack. They want to get to Vegas. They're playing for Vegas right now.
Yeah,
is what they're doing.
Good point.
They've got Derek Carr, who's still going to be solid in 2 or 3 years. He'll be in his prime probably in about 3 years. They're playing, and he's got 4 first-round draft picks. Does he overvalue first-round draft picks? I think, as you brought to our attention, LJ, I think he does. But I think Gruden thinks he's the best talent evaluator out there. He thinks he is. And so he's going to use those 4 first-round draft picks, and he's going to show up with a team in Vegas. I'm telling you, they're selling it right. They're selling out right now for 2 years.
So he's planning on, they might lose for 2 years, but when they show up to Vegas, they're going to be like the Rams are now. They're going to be.
And what's the thing we've talked about for years, and the Browns are the funniest example of this, is, and now they're kind of turning into not the example because Hugh Jackson should be gone. But teams just kind of hold on to a new coach for 2, maybe 3 years, and then say, "Oh, you didn't turn it around in no time at all, so you're out of here." The Rams are saying the Raiders are saying, we don't care about the next 2 or 3 years. We don't care. We want a good team. We want a team that wins, and they might be building it. Gruden's getting an opportunity to, if he's as good of a coach as he thinks he is, which he probably isn't, but if he is, that's scary.
I will say there's a few things Gruden does offensively when I watch where I think he needs to catch up to times, and I think he will. The more he watches film, the more he digs into it. I think he'll figure stuff out. He's still really smart offensively. I think he's still really smart, but I don't know. There's just things where I think he trusts too much in Gruden.
Yeah.
I think to be a good head coach, you got to learn. Look, what's made Belichick so good is he'll delegate and he makes good hires and he'll delegate to others. Yeah. Same with Nick Saban. Same with all the great coaches. I think Gruden thinks, I think you're right. He goes, I got 10 years to do this. I'm going to build this team up. But he's like, I am going to do this. No, you need to go get others around you, because sometimes Gruden's
But he's got 10 years to figure it out too, though. He's got 10 years to get those people around him. They're not getting rid of him for 5. They just
saying. just saying, back in July, Gruden said, if I fail, I won't take any of the Raiders' money. So far, he's winless in 3 games. Is he cashing those paychecks?
I guess the question is, wait a second. Did he say it? I didn't know he said that. So like
he kept getting berated about how he got $100 million contract. He's like, look here, if I fail at the Raiders, I won't take that money.
So
I'm going to win here.
In 7 years, he's got $70 million in a bank account that he's been holding on to just to give it back to him if he needed to?
No, that boy, that's what he said, but that boy's going straight to the bank. I don't care. Part of me wonders if this is all like a thing by him just to stick it to the Raiders. And he's like, y'all screwed me once, and now y'all are about to get screwed for either y'all are going to pay me. Because I think coach's money is like guaranteed. Then. Oh, I know you'd love him.
It is. No, yeah, he's getting paid his money. He's getting paid his $100,000 or $100 million no matter what he does. So
I really do. I think he and Mark Davis got together and they said, look, don't worry about these next 2 years. I don't care.
Yeah.
Vegas.
Well, you better, if you're going to give someone 10 years, though.
Well, Khalil Mack, but he'd be 29, 30 at that age, when they get to Vegas. Yeah, he's still got some years left, but I think they're counting on those 4 draft picks, and that's
and they're dropping all that money on him to like, instead they're going to have this farm team where they can figure out who's the right guy and who's not on cheap contracts instead of winning for today and worrying about your job tomorrow.
Interestingly, the where y'all have gone with this is interesting because I was selling.
I need to take a shower. I
was the little bit of stock that I may have had in the Raiders. I was trying to sell every bit of it. And if you're Mark Davis and you're a smart man, which I've never, since I've been a football fan, I've never accused one of the Davis men of being smart. But if he is smart and you're going to hire John Gruden to a 10-year, $100 million contract, then you better say, look here, I'm in it for the long run. If we lose this year, if we lose next year, if we lose the year after that, that's fine. But we will win. I see a long-term vision. And Gruden is making moves, like Dad said. The moves he's making is like, we'll be good. I promise you, we'll get there. It might not be now, but we'll get there.
Well, and who thinks long-term? It's the Patriots. It's the San Antonio Spurs. It's like there are very few teams that think this way because there are very few that get the opportunity. And so I think we're about to see is if a team that doesn't organically get to that level that they can think in that way, can turn that into something, if this is a good strategy or if this is just something that works because the teams that get there
now
are
I'm excited. Now I'm excited for buy and sell later this week and all that. I want to know.
I don't think I'll be able to say it out loud. I don't think I'll be able to say it out loud. I don't think I'll be able to.
We've had a ton of football talk going, but I kind of want to
Can I have one more football thing?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, I want to say that last week, I'm sorry I called him Skip Bayless. That was a little much. But our resident Uncle Tony, he said Ben still got it. He said Ben still got it. Go look at the Smith-Schuster highlights. And that's kind of like saying, no, lottery tickets are worth it because look at how many people have won on them. Like, you're just looking at the best throws that he made. If you go look at Ben Roethlisberger's game, he overthrew every deep ball, and most of his passes were to somebody who just ran a quick bubble screen, and then they go get 7 yards after the catch. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger did not look good that game. He just threw it 70 times.
Dad, we have to give the people what they want. They want LJ and Uncle Tone together.
I think we got to get them on together. Yeah.
Smackdown. We need to have a boxing match. You see, like, YouTube's doing that now. Their stars are like boxing. Me and Tony need to just have a boxing match.
Canelo Triple G.
I mean,
anyway, that's all I got for football. He doesn't have it anymore.
Well, and I have a question before we leave. We'll get on a real quick question, but let's take a hard turn. And it's a new topic. I don't know how many times we might do it one time, and this might be the last. But I kind of want to do a new segment where it's just they did a study on what, and I read it. Maybe LJ, it sounds like you might be able to explain this better. But apparently, some researchers found that the octopus brain is, I don't know the plural version of it. We'll get to that. Maybe y'all can teach it. I think you mentioned in an email it was octopi.
No, you said something very different than that. You said something, if you look at it, it might not be safe for hair. Is what you wrote down.
It's not suitable for work, guys. But so the octopus's brain is very intellectual, and they've been known to open jars and catch fish and even high five each other underwater. So humans were very intrigued by their brain. Yeah. So they wanted to learn about their brains. So what they did was they gave dolphins Molly or MDMA or ecstasy. They gave them some X. And the way they did this was they put they put it into the water to where it would like go into their, as they were breathing, they would breathe in and this ecstasy would go into them, and they wanted to see how they would act. I don't understand this. I was going to say this could be cruel to the animals. Maybe this is being very kind to the animals. I don't know. It depends how I don't know.
Yeah.
But what the hell? We're giving ecstasy to octopuses?
Well,
I still don't know if I'm saying that right.
You are. Yeah. And you're right. Well, I did possibly check the word I put. We can't. It's not safe. You're right. Didn't mean it that way, but it's not safe.
Oh man, one big room.
Now, I will say, anyway, I do think that there's some cruelty there. I mean, legitimately, I don't think that's a smart thing to start giving. But like, animals do drugs. Did you know that reindeer eat magic mushrooms?
No, I did not.
Yeah, and moose they eat fermented apples, so they get drunk. Moose love getting drunk. So animals do like to imbibe in their own.
So moose, when a moose finds a fermented apple, it's the same way as me getting like a fifth of Crown. Or like, oh, look at this apple! I got me a good one. I
mean, I think they've got to find a bunch of them. Them finding a fermented apple is kind of like you finding an already opened beer in the back of your fridge or something. But like,
there's been a night where never mind. We'll just go on.
But usually those trees will have a lot of apples that have fallen and sat there for a while. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, but there is like something to be said, like that is, these drugs do things to your brain and open them up in ways that like, just a normal dolphin brain wouldn't be able to. And so it can kind of like open up pathways for us to be able to see, like, does this work like it does on a human brain? And like, does this lead to this? And it can be super informational.
Well, it's interesting. So they actually found that they share, like, there's a lot of similarities between us and octopuses because they reacted the same way that humans react to ecstasy. And they were like hugging each other. And then even they were fascinated by random, before they had anything, they weren't fascinated by this random toy in their tank. But then when they got the ecstasy, they were like just fascinated by different stuff. And I personally, I won't ask y'all, but personally, I don't know what it would be like. But from what I've seen in movies and other things, it sounds like these dolphins were trippy and they were just like hugging on the tank and doing all these fun things. And I guess it is helpful to know that they react the same, but I don't understand how can we use that to our benefit besides just knowing, oh, well, that's neat.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a tough question because it kind of, most research opens us up to the next step. And so it's not like you know what the point of this research is until you've tested the way science works is you come up with a hypothesis. You say dolphins' brains work like ours. And then how can we test that? You find a way to test it. And then you see if your testing confirmed or retracted what you said. And then that just adds to the wealth of knowledge that humans have. And then once you add that next to, maybe something about mussel brains or clam brains, then you can maybe find something else about like the connection that the world has, or who knows.
Yeah, that makes a good point.
It's all about a collective wealth of knowledge.
To be fair, there has been studies that have been made that suggest that psychoactive, you call them psychoactive drugs? Is that what psychoactive drugs can actually be therapeutic in some uses? Not just go out and get high necessarily, but there are some beneficial uses to psychoactive drugs.
Not just go to the club and drop some Molly.
But
well, it depends. Is your psychiatrist at the club? Maybe it's prescribed.
But sincerely, now there have been studies made that
you're absolutely right
with issues that they have, mental issues.
PTSD, I think, is a big one. That gets helped with.
Well, that's. Okay, actually, I'm wrong. Yeah, I remember from that article. Now that you said it, it's going to be a way for them to. The authors think that octopuses present a promising model for studying MDMA's effect on the human brain and treating PTSD and better understanding how the brain evolved to conjure social behavior. So there is a way that they can find a way to correlate this to help humans. It just seems odd that you're just going to throw some X in a tank with some octopuses and make them trip.
At a disco
and
ball and see what happens.
Maybe it's the best night of, and we'll throw out, there's like a big, they have to wean these, they make sure that these octopuses aren't addicted to anything before they put them back out in the wild. So they're very safe about it. It just blew my mind when I read that there's a study of giving ecstasy to octopus. I was like, huh? Yeah. I thought it was like an article from The Onion.
No. Yes.
The Onion. I haven't read that in a long time. There's some interesting stuff in The Onion.
There's a good subreddit called Ate the Onion, and it's all about people that have fallen for Onion articles on like social media and stuff. It's pretty funny. But And so on the plural of octopodes,
what did that type? Or we're not.
I think actually that was a character in a James Bond movie. I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think so.
So I mean, why?
That doesn't necessarily.
I mean, it's
that doesn't. Well, I mean, go ahead. But you know, there are a lot of things that are in older movies that you shouldn't necessarily say on our not always family friendly podcast.
Well, and I think I meant it as octopicy is what I think I meant.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But so my understanding is that we assumed that it has kind of an S ending, and so oftentimes like cactus, you'll make that cacti. But then some grammarian was like, wait a second, no, octopus is a Greek word, so it really should end with a Greek plural, which is ode, so it's octopode. But then when you actually look at the rules of grammar in English, when we borrow a word, then we decide the rules are whatever we want them to be. So octopus is exactly as realistic as any other plural that you can come up with. Nobody's wrong is the true answer.
Okay.
And there you go. You probably didn't open up this pod thinking you'd learn how to say octopus in plural, but you now know.
Here we are.
Boom. Well, let's transition on to how we normally end it. And we normally end by talking about what we're listening to. I just want to say that there's no way that any of us can top which there's a lot of things that LeBron James does that we will never top. But the other night on his Instagram story, he put out where he was at. And he was at this private concert where apparently no one was allowed to have their phone. I guess LeBron was, though, because he was posting Instagram stories. But he shared a stage. I mean,
try telling LeBron put down your phone. I'm not going to do it.
Listen to this. Listen to who was sharing the stage with LeBron James. Dave Chappelle, John Mayer, and Will Smith made an appearance. And they all like took turns just having their own chance at the mic.
Wow.
What I would give to be a fly on that wall just to hear it.
Oh, man.
Oh, I haven't heard anything. Well, it blew my mind because I thought I saw a picture of LeBron and John Mayer, and I thought, that's probably not right. And then later it was like, LeBron said, with two legends, Chappelle and Mayer. And I was like, oh, my God, that is crazy. Awesome. That is why my man went to L.A. It wasn't for basketball. It was to go make Space Jam 2 and to go on concerts with Dave Chappelle and John Mayer at a random bar on a Saturday night because that's what happens in L.A.
Fair enough. Can't blame him.
Yeah, no, I can't be. I as Dad used to say, I ain't mad at you. Got nothing but love for you.
Do you think
he's living his best life and getting paid millions to do it? I mean, go for it.
But so to go on to what we're listening to, I'll go ahead and start off. And I kind of have two. I only have one really, but then one creeped up Friday morning while I was at work, and I just got to throw it on there. Another Tiny Desk concert came out. And it was my boy, Hobo Johnson and the Lovemakers.
Oh, no.
Yes. I haven't looked at a Tiny Desk concert in a while, so I just typed it on YouTube, and that was the newest one. I was like, oh, snap.
Oh, God.
And my boy was on there, and it was good. It was really good. I would suggest anyone to go listen to it. We'll put it on the show notes.
Did he do orange scone?
Yeah, they gave him some orange scones. They actually presented him with some. But what I've been listening to, and I'm late. I'm going to go ahead and I've seen a couple people tweet about it, and I was like, oh, I'll get to it. I finally got to it. No Name put out a new album, Room 25. Man. Yeah. Shout out. The reason I've seen it by a couple people, but the reason I went and listened to it, shout out to my boy Hank, aka The Truth. He was tweeting about it, and I was like, all right, let me go check this out because I know
the man you hear at the top and bottom of the show.
So I had to go check out No Name, and I'm telling you, I've listened to that album probably 3 times in the past week.
No Name's
really
great.
Good album. Apparently,
No Name Gypsy.
I don't know if this gets left in or not, but I just found out that she has a Tiny Desk concert, so I know what I'm doing as soon as we get off the recording.
It's good.
As I'm about to go listen to that.
Yeah.
But No Name, I've been listening to No Name. I just love her ever since that sparring thing she did with Chance, that Israel song. I've been all about her. She's cool. Her album's good. But that's what I've been on. So LJ, what have you been on?
Okay, so this is for a show. It's actually the curtain call on one of the shows I'm doing. Honey Body by Kishi Bashi. Like, you guys, I'm serious, both need to listen to this song. It's a smile. It is the audio version of a smile.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
So check it out. Cool. So yeah, that's what I'm listening to. But
okay, so now let me fix what I said a second ago. As soon as we get done recording, I have 2 things I have to listen to now because it's already pulled up. Both are pulled up on separate tabs here. Dad, it's been kind of. I know you've been dealing with the same weather I have. It's been gloomy and nasty. Have you got any chance to listen to any music or?
No, it's not music, but I will share a podcast that I listen to that I really like, and it's
Malcolm Gladwell.
No. No. Unfortunately, he hadn't come out with the 4th season of Revisionist History yet. I'm waiting with bated breath.
Trust me.
I will know.
Trust me, listeners. When he does, you will know. Dad will make that known.
But no, I listened it, and I know Kevin likes him. We kind of texted a little bit, and LJ, I think you liked him. But so Bill Simmons did one with Steve Nash, and
I think BS needs to promote us. We give him a plug.
Well, I want to tell you,
he's just
Steve
good.
Nash is one of my favorite players of all time. I loved his game. I liked the way he would always listen to a question and answer it honestly. He didn't give you cliche bullshit answers. He was just, I like him a lot. And he and Simmons had a really good podcast about some things. You could hear the appreciation he had for Steve Kerr and Popovich. And I think Kevin brought up
the game,
the game in general. I mean, what it would be like to sit around with Popovich and Steve Kerr and Steve Nash and maybe even throw Bill Simmons in there, and us. Yeah. Oh God, that would be so much fun. So anyway, Bill Simmons has a good podcast. He'd happen to have Steve Nash on there, and it was really good stuff.
I'll say, I think Steve Nash is like widely loved, widely respected, and still somehow underrated. Like just
I think you're right. I think you're right. So he got 2 MVPs, which is still, it surprised me to know that he's won 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
But I think he is a little underrated. People forget, like he was, and I know if my boy Davis is still, if my boy Davis is still listening right now, then he's agreeing, he's nodding his head. But Nash was amazing, and he and Mike D'Antoni changed the way the basketball is played. They started where we're at today.
That's right.
And Nash, I don't really know what he averaged, probably 20 and 11 or 20 and 12. He could have averaged 30. He was amazing. And he talks about it, how it was so hard for him to shoot. As Dad said, that pod's up there. I know a couple of pods ago, Dad talked about how he wants his quarterback to be someone he wants to go have a beer with. Well, if you want your point guard to be the same way, then Steve Nash is your boy. I would love to go sit down with Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to go to LeBron's parties, though. I don't know.
Well, they'd be pretty fun, too. True that.
I'm going to ask Steve Nash if we can go hang out, and then after we get done, can we try to, can he get us in to LeBron's party? Because I bet LeBron's a little younger. Maybe he starts the party a little after,
Well,
the after party.
That's fair.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. I wanted to do something. We've not done this before, but so this pod, we're recording this Sunday night, and this pod comes out. It'll be out on Tuesday morning. So I want to do Tuesday morning's headline today. So after the Monday Night Football game between Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, I want to get a headline from you guys. What are we going to be talking about? LJ, do you have anything?
It'll be on the cover of what's a Pittsburgh newspaper. It's going to be like
Pittsburgh Times.
Ben Roethlisberger 70 years old? ? And that'll be the headline. He's done. We'll find out after Monday.
He is not going to make him. Are you saying that Roethlisberger's going to suck it up on Monday night and you'll be vindicated?
Yep. That's what I'm saying. Let's see what happens.
Interesting.
I'm bold.
So I was going to go Dad, I'll let you go. Do you have one, or do you want me to go?
Well, no, I'll say I think it's going to be an ode to the old Heart song. They're going to go The Magic Man. Fitzmagic is going to have another good game tomorrow night, and it's going to be The Magic Man made it happen again. That's what I think.
What a song.
Our luck, it'll be Le'Veon Bell traded to Buccaneers before the game. Biggest surprise ever, or something like that. So
the headline, if Le'Veon, they are fielding trade offers now. If Le'Veon Bell gets traded, regardless of that game, that's the headline. But I think I'm going to go with, and I know Uncle Tone's going to like this when he hears it, but I think I don't know why, but this weird locker room and Mike Tomlin, I think they kind of work the best when all this weird adversity and shit's just crazy. I think they put on a show. The defense finally shows up for the first time in forever, and Fitzmagic becomes Fitzpatrick again and realize he's a Harvard grad and not Conor McGregor. And I think that's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go on a limb and say the Steelers crush the Buccaneers. And Fitzmagic does not look good. So we're all on different boats here. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun to come back on Tuesday and eat whatever crow we have to eat.
Someone's going to have to, maybe a drone blocks a field goal. That'd be perfect for Pittsburgh.
Well, and Mike Tomlin or Omar Epps or Mike Tomlin, whichever one he is,
whichever one's coaching the Steelers, But it'll turn out to be a Steelers player that's flying the drone because, that's why it was outside of campus. It's just
Le'Veon Bell, and then he gets traded to Tampa Bay the next day. Oh!
He's got a little. No, what he's got is he's got a little toy Antonio Brown. So he keeps practicing bringing it to training camp and dropping it off with the drone. All right, we're getting into the weeds. I don't know what to say.
All right, guys. That's it for the Just Press Play pod. Just subscribe, download. You can hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. Just type in Just Press Play and we'll pop up. And that's it for me, guys. Y'all got anything else?
I'm done.
I'm good.
All right.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Hold on. Well, sorry about this terrible recording.
God, Kevin.
Why do we pay him, LJ? We don't. That's right.
I didn't know she had a.
We don't.
She has a Tiny Desk concert too.
What? See, now we're just Kevin's browsing the internet, and that's a part of the podcast here.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this in so the audience can know the bullshit that we put up with every week. We always put in some of Dad's like tech issues, but here's Kevin's issues.
So.